Hi guys, Norm with you again, and on the bench today we've got this Uniden Uniace 200 CB radio, and this is one I recently bought from eBay, and I paid too much for it, as you do, get auction fever and what have you. But so when I first looked at this, you can see from the wax in the pots here, this has been screwdrivered, and so somebody has been in this thing and screwdrivered it, messed around with its settings, and consequently currently, if I look at the needle, there is no transmit. We are getting transmit light, so we know the mic's working, but there is nothing on the signal meter. And so I've now hooked it up. I've got this breakout box hooked up, and it's got the lead going off there to the frequency counter, and the other lead going off to this power meter. And if we look at the power meter, we can see that there is absolutely nothing coming out of the radio. So we need to figure out what is wrong with the radio. Now it's looking at the protection diode over here, which is quite difficult to see. It's not really focusing very well. But it looks like that protection diode had blown, and that looks to have been replaced. And so it's easy to think that output transistor might be blown. So we're going to find out today whether that is blown or not, and I'm going to show you some tips on how you can tell whether that's blown, whether the driver transistor is blown or the pre-driver. You've got three output stages in this radio. You've got a pre-driver here, which is 2SC945, I think, and the driver is a 2SC2018, and the output is a 2SC2019. I might be wrong with that. We'll have to check on the schematic later, but that's, I think, what they are from memory. These two main output ones looks like they have been messed with a little bit, perhaps. The wax in them has been messed with a bit. But other than that, it's not looking too bad here. There is pen marks on top of all the capacitors. That's because I have marked them all off, because I do plan to recap this radio. So as I listed down all the capacitors, I did put a mark on the top of them to show that I had written them down. So other than the fact it's been screwdrivered, and other than that, it's not looking too bad. Really, it's all in fairly decent condition inside. Not been no added bodges or anything to it, no modifications, just been screwdrivered. So let me now put this camera in the tripod, and then we'll do a few checks to see whether it's the output stage is gone or whether it just needs to be retuned. So let's find out. And just one little extra bit here. Somebody has drilled holes in the channel selector. Why would somebody drill holes? I mean, obviously, if you want to put some switch cleaner in there or something, or some isopropyl alcohol, maybe. But then what's the point in cleaning thing, putting some isopropyl alcohol in it or switch cleaner, cleaning it, and then leaving the holes open like that? It's crazy. So obviously one of the previous owners of this radio really didn't know what they were doing. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to look at the power supply. Now I've turned this now so the meter is reading amps mode, and we're currently on the receive. We're reading just over 20 milliamps, 200 milliamps, sorry. So that's good. Now, when I transmit, we're expecting to see the needle move higher. Now, obviously, it's not going to move. I mean, when it's working, this should move up to maybe 800 milliamps or something like that. Um, so we're not expecting it to move to 800 milliamps, but we are expecting it to move to maybe 400 or 350 or something. So let's now key up and see what we're getting. Okay, so we are getting a fractional movement there. And that tells us that the radio is going into transmit mode. So the transmit receive switching is working in your radio. Yep. But it's also telling us, because that's only moving a tiny fraction, that's telling us that none of the three output stages are actually getting powered up, because even if the main output was blown, the pre-driver or the driver would actually pull a bit more current than what's showing now. So that's telling us there is a fault with the VCO or the tuning of the VCO. So let's now just go down and do another check on the radio, and we will confirm our suspicions. Okay, so in the last shot, looking at the power supply current reading, we noted that the radio was entering transmit mode and the PLL was keying up, if you like. Now we're just going to confirm that. I've got a standard voltmeter here set to 20 volts, and we're going to go to pin 7 on the PLL, which is the second one in from the end this side. And it's quite hard to see looking at the camera, trying to get on it. Okay, so we should get somewhere between 7 or 8 volts on this when I transmit. So let's see. No, I'm not on the right pin. Wait a minute. All right, 7.07. So maybe a little bit low, but it is actually working. That is telling us what we need to know. So we know, or we're pretty sure by the readings on the amp meter, that the outputs are okay. So now we need to look at the VCO tuning. We need to tune the VCO. Now the trouble with a radio that's been screwdrivered, all of these have been messed around with, and you don't know what's been done to them, or it could be completely screwed up. See what it is, they probably messed up the VCO tuning, which is these two cans, mainly this one with the wax in it, and that they probably messed that one up. And then trying to get that right, they've screwed around with all the others. That's what it looks like anyway. So what I'm going to do now is basically set them all to roughly in the middle. So see, screw it down till it just touches the bottom. And then we count. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so it's just 4. So it's about 5. So we go about 1, 2, and a bit. So that takes it about halfway. So do the same with this one. Wind it all down. 1, 2, and a bit. And this one, wind it right down. 1, 2, and a bit. And the same with this one. Wind it right down. 1, 2, and a bit. Now these two are for receive, and that one's for receive, and that one's for receive. So we aren't going to touch those yet. It may be that we need to do that when the radio is back working. So again, now I do the same on these ones. wind it all down, and 1, 2 and a bit, and the same with this one, wind it right down, 1, 2 and a bit. And you notice I am using a plastic trimmer tool for this, and yep, these are fairly cheap on eBay. You can buy a set of these for about £3 or something, and you can do this with metal screwdrivers, but it is a hell of a lot harder. It's so much easier if you use plastic tools. So that's my tip for you: buy some plastic tools. Um, yep, and so let's focus back on that. So now I've got all these transmit cans set to approximately halfway. Now what I'm going to do is, if I can get it off, bring in the little handset, put it to the side, and if I can get it somewhere where we can see the signal meter of that one. No. So what I'm trying to do is, okay, put that there. And when I count this one, um, yep, get it, just trying to get it sort of in shot so we can see the signal meter on that one. And yeah, so when I'm queuing this mic up, we're seeing absolutely nothing on the signal meter of that one. And if I actually desquelch it and I key up, yeah, you can hear there's absolutely nothing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transmit, and then I'm going to adjust VCO and see if we can get something. Oh, as we can see there. Yep, we've seen that. So now we've got a bit of something when that is going up. So we know now that, excuse me, we know now we're getting something. Yep, although there still is nothing on the power supply. No output on the power supply. So I don't know if I can go, I can't go all this in, can I? Yep, well that's kind of. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put the power supply into SWAR mode, calibrate mode, and that will make the meter as sensitive as it can be. And let's now key up, and we've got nothing. So now I want to adjust the next one up. See, when we're tuning transmit, we work from the front to the back. When we're tuning receive, we work from the back to the front. But normally it wouldn't be this bad. Okay, we're getting nothing. Nothing. Okay. So what I'm doing as well, I'm just also keeping an eye on the signal meter on the handset, which is hard to see on video, of course. All right, let's put that back in there for a minute. Can I do that? How's that? Yeah, so we're seeing that, and we'll see if we get any change on that. There's nothing there. Yeah. Oh, that's it. And now if we look at the power meter, well, we're doing something. So let's now put it into power mode and just see. So we're doing about maybe 3 watts. No, we're on the 3 watt setting. So we're doing 0.3 of a watt. Oh no, bottom scale. So we're just over half a watt there. So, and now if we look at the power supply, we can see that that is now going up quite a bit. So now we've got to concentrate back on this power meter and work. So now I've got some power. I'm going to go back to the start and we try and adjust it so we get maximum. What's going on with the light here? Come on. Let's add a bit of extra light. Kadoom. Alright. So, yep. So we're doing this on channel 20. As you can see, VCO drops out there. Tune it back in. Now turn it and turn it and turn it. Then it drops out. So I want to go about halfway between the two, which is roughly about there. And so now move to the next pot. And we can see going down. Okay, I'm just going to focus more on the power meter there because that's more important than knowing what pot I'm in. So this is the second pot, and so we're just trying to peak it now and go down, up, down, up. So that one's peaked. So we go to the next one, the third one up. Oh, there we go. That's coming up to 3 watts, about 2.8. So we go to the next one, number 4. And you can see we go up past it and then start coming back down. So we need to get it to the peak. There we go. And now we're on to number 5. Oh, okay, we've gone over scale on that one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put it back in calibration mode for a minute. And I'm just going to set this to like bang on the 5 mark there. Okay, it looks a bit, let's set it to bang on the camera. That's about it. And now I'm going to tune it up from there. So this is what number 5 did I say? Whoops, radio nearly fell off a bench then. Let's now go into this one and see. Yep, so that's pretty good. And now the last one. Okay, so that's that. So let's now put it back into power mode and 20 watts. So we're now doing 4 watts. And it looks a bit off on the camera, but if we look at that the correct way, to me that looks about 4 watts. But of course what I've got to do now is I'll put it back on the calibration mode and yeah, get it turned back. Now I'm going to go back to the start again and just go back through and just double check. Okay, the first one That's good. And let's just make sure we got it absolutely peaked. Second one is good, not making any difference when I twiddle it. Third one is, yep, peaked. Fourth one is peaked, yep. And the fifth one is peaked. And the sixth one is peaked. Lovely. So what I've got to do now is go down to channel 1 and see what we get. Okay, and channel 40. Okay, so we're doing roughly 5 watts all around. Let's go back to channel 20. Yep, and we are just under 5. So that's good. We're not going to do anything more with that for the minute. Now, what I will do later is I will recalibrate this thing properly. But I just wanted to get it transmitting for now and just confirm it wasn't the outputs that are blown. You can buy these output transistors. There is someone selling them on eBay, and I nearly bought one. I thought, well, I might as well buy one to have a spare in case I need it, but I didn't need it, obviously. Let's zoom back out. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so it would have been very easy for me to buy a new output transistor and put in, and I would have been very disappointed because it wouldn't have worked. So that little step, the first main step, what was that? Biddy-boop. That was my handset. Weird. Yeah, must have reset itself. Yeah, stupid handset. But then the handset did help us. And yeah, so that's good. That's got this thing now. And if we go back up to the power supply, we can see that it's pulling just about exactly 800 milliamps, which is pretty much spot on, really. Why won't this thing zoom? Zoom, you bugger. Right. Yes. So, yep. 2, 4, 6, 800 milliamps. So that is just about perfect. And we can tell that pretty much these outputs are okay and there's nothing wrong with them. They're not dying or anything, because if the outputs were dying, we would be pulling a lot more current than that. So the fact that it's only pulling 800 milliamps and we're doing about 5 watts, that's pretty much perfect. So that is great. So what I'm going to do now, so I'm not going to actually realign the radio properly before I replace the capacitors, because chances are what happened to this is, oops, tripod's a bit wobbly, that's not good, is it? Anyway, fall over? No. Yeah, so chances are what happened to this radio and why they screwdrivered it is, I'm going to say, very possibly some of these capacitors have sort of worn out and died. And so instead of replacing the capacitors, they've gone in and, oh, must be something wrong, and had to tune all the pots, which is not a good thing to do, really. Because if your radio's been working fine and you've been using it, and then all of a sudden it goes a bit wonky, goes a bit wrong, and you know that nobody's actually been in the radio to adjust any of the parts, then you don't need to adjust the parts. They're all fine, or the cans rather. Yeah, because it's a very common mistake. You think, oh God, the signal meter isn't reading right. Well, let's go in and adjust the signal meter part. But that's wrong because at the factory settings, all the pots should be fine and all the cans should be fine. And you shouldn't need to adjust these cans at all. That's why they've got wax in them. So it's like you don't need to adjust this. But obviously, if the capacitors started to go bad, it will have been drifting out or whatever. And so instead of thinking, well, let's replace the capacitors because they do all look totally fine. Instead of replacing the capacitors, oh, just give it a quick tune-up here and there with these cans. But obviously, when they tuned it, they they lost VCO lock and they couldn't get it back. So anyway, that tip I just showed you in the video of how to get it back was you basically set all the pots to set all the cans rather to halfway position and start from the front to the back. And it was handy having the handset there with the signal meter, and you could just see when the VCO came in, you could see it, but obviously nothing showed up on the meter. So it's handy. It's good to have like this meter and the frequency counter and everything at the back there. This frequency counter. Consequently, I never did check frequency, but let's see. Should be 79125, and we're at 790.9. So that's near enough. So yeah, but certainly without having this handset there, and I had the handset there, and you could see when the VCO came in, the signal meter on the handset just moved a little bit, just a couple of notches. You're right. Well, that's obviously the VCO is set, and without having that, it would have took probably a lot more time to get it right, to get it reading. Okay, guys, thanks for watching and cheers for now.